Recording in progress. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvasesha Sunyavadi Paschachare Satarine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvasesha Shunyavadi Paschachare Satarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gauravakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gauravakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gauravakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Gauranga Nityananda. Oh, welcome everybody to this morning. I'm in Paris, in France, and today we have Ratha Yatra in Paris. We're having normal route, more or less, here in France, although there's a lot of precautions and regulations regarding coronavirus. It's the general mood is things are going on. We've had a nice festival last week for Lord Balaram. Around about 250 to 300 devotees were there, mostly from France. We had Mahaprabhu with us, the famous Kirtan inspirer, and Agnidev Prabhu have been with us, or were with us. And before that, we had another big festival, the Kirtan Mela. We had Sachinanda Maharaj and Kadambakana Maharaj with us, and a few others, Agnidev again with us. And today in Paris, we're having Ratha Yatra. So it's quite a, there's not exactly business as usual, but it's at least our real business is somehow or another going on. And since today is Ratha Yatra, and one of the first pictures I saw of devotees joining us today had a nice big picture of Lord Jagannath behind him on the screen. And so today we're going to hear a little bit about Lord Jagannath and Lordchitanya's mercy. So we'll start with the song about Lordchitanya Mahaprabhu from Narottama Thakur. And this is usually so known as Gauranga Bolite Habe, which we'll now begin to sing, Krishna willing. Famous song by Narottama Das. So please join in with all your hearts. When will the opportune moment come to me, when there will be shivering of the body as soon as I chant Lord Gauranga's name? And after the shivering while chanting Hare Krishna, when will there be tears pouring down from my eyes? And we first approach Radha and Krishna, even the Maha Mantra, which is sound vibration of Radha and Krishna. We first approach Lordchitanya Mahaprabhu, who, as you know, is the combined form of Radha and Krishna, appearing in this approachable form. To approach Radha and Krishna is not a cheap thing. One requires completely unalloyed, pure heart, pure devotion. Lordchitanya is very merciful, and he gives everyone a chance to connect, we could say, connect with Radha and Krishna through the chanting of Hare Krishna. And by approaching Lordchitanya first, even if our chanting is not of a high grade, nonetheless, the Lord will accept our chanting, and we can make progress in our spiritual lives. Even though there may be attachments or misconceptions sometimes, in doubts in our hearts, etc. By approaching Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is most merciful. So we will sing this song of glorification of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then we'll try to hear something about the mercy of Lord Chaitanya and Ratha Yatra. Will you be the button presser? And we have to change screens. This line, Gauranga Bolite Habe, is like a chorus. So we will be going back to it after each of the other verses. Gauranga Bolite Habe, Pulaka Sharira, Hare Hare Bolitena Yane Papeniro, Gauranga Bolite Habe, Pulaka Sharira, Hare Hare Bolitena Yane Paveni. Go to the other one. Arakabe Hitai Chande Karana Haibe Sangsara Vasanama Kabe Tucha Habe Arakabe Nitai Chande Karana Haibe Sangsara Vasanama Kabe Tucha. Not yet. When will Lord Nityananda bestow his causeless mercy upon me, so that my desire for material enjoyment will become very insignificant? In another song, which we sometimes sing, actually in this song itself, also, next verse, we'll see how important it is to become free of material enjoyment. As long as we're attached to material enjoyment, we can't really become attached to Krishna. So Lordchitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda have come specifically to free us by engaging us in the Sankirtan movement, so that our hearts are absorbed in how to spread the chanting of the holy name in the mood of Lord Nityananda to every corner of the world. This way, by absorbing our hearts in how to preach Krishna consciousness, not just being how to do things in Krishna consciousness, or just how to, keep going or whatever it is, chant our rounds, which is also very good, of course, but to occupy our hearts. Our hearts are so covered by passion and ignorance, so occupy our hearts with thoughts how I can assist Srila Prabhupada in fulfilling Lord Chaitanya's prediction to spread the holy name. And it's Lord Nityananda who is the gateway. He's the gateway not only to love of Godhead, but the gateway to fulfilling Lord Chaitanya's prediction of spreading the holy name to every town and village of the world. We have to beg for Lord Nityananda's mercy. By his mercy only, we can become free of this enemy, this devious enemy of attachment to material enjoyment, seeing ourselves as the enjoyer of Krishna's energies. When will that time come? Gauranga Bolite Habe Pulaka Shariro Hari Hari Bolite Nai Yane Pavenira Gauranga Bolite Habe Pulaka Sharira Hari Hari Bolite Nai Yane Babe Vishaya Chariya Kabe Shurave Ma Kabe Hama Heraba Shri Vrindavana Vishaya Chariya Kabe Shurave Man Kabe Hama Heraba Shri Vrindavana. When my mind is completely purified, being freed from material anxiety and desire, then I shall be able to understand Vrindavan and the conjugal love of Radha and Krishna. Then my spiritual life will be successful. This is the process of, this is the process for becoming Krishna conscious. The first, practically speaking, Ketodarpana Marjanam Bhava Mahadava Agni Varpanam is extinguishing the fire, the blazing fire of material existence. By chanting the holy names under the shelter of Lord Nityananda, our chanting can effectively cleanse the heart of all material desires which have accumulated for many, many lifetimes, and the anxiety which accrues as a result of trying to fulfill those material desires or not fulfilling those desires. Either way, and it's entangled in a network of complex action and reaction in this world called karma bandhana. The tight knot of karma binds the living entity, covers our consciousness, absorbs our consciousness, and the consciousness is just like a perception is covered, it's completely covered. It's like the sun. The sun cannot be covered. It's we who are covered by the clouds, not the sun. So the heart is covered by the clouds of material desire. These clouds can be dissipated, and the sun, in the form of Lord Nityananda or Lordchitanya and his associates, enter into this dark, you could say dark material world, but they're not part of it. They come into this world, and by their mercy they shine the light of devotional service in all the conditioned souls. And consequently, we have an opportunity, if we open our eyes, open our ears, open our hearts a little bit, to become purified by their mercy. Otherwise, there's no way that we can understand. We may repeat, we may read and so on. To understand is another thing. Repeating and hearing are part of the process, but they're not the conclusion. To actually enter into as Prabhupada said, the dancing party of Radha and Krishna. To understand Vrindavan. Krishna is not this world, so to speak. He's always transcendental. Vrindavan is also transcendental. When we go to Vrindavan, those who have been in this lifetime have had that opportunity, so to speak, to go to Vrindavan, we may see with our conditioned senses whatever we may see: broken buildings, thorn bushes, dirt, dust, beggars, so many things we may also see besides some inspiring opportunities. But Prabhupada one time in 1967, first time he took devotee to Vrindavan, Kirtananda, said to Prabhupada, "Why is it all so dirty around here, Srila Prabhupada? Why is everything so dirty? I thought this was a spiritual world." Prabhupada said, "Because your heart is so dirty, you're seeing it dirty. We have dirty hearts unless we don't see the real Vrindavan. We just see some dim reflection almost, but even the dim reflection, it can be very inspiring, and unending mercy can flow. And if we approach with a humble heart, then our spiritual life will be successful." Gauranga Bolite Habe Pulaka Shari Hari Hari Bolite Na Yane Babini Gauranga Bolite Habe Pulaka Shari Hari Hari Bolite Na Yane Babini. Rupa Raghunatha Pade Hoive Akuti Kabe Hama Ujabase Jugala Piriti Rupa Raghunatha Pade Hoive Akuti Kabe Hama Puja Abose Yugala Kiriti. This word of this song, Lala Samai, it means intensive hankering, lolium. You see, this is one of the preliminary characters or qualities required in our practice of devotional service, is eagerness. Determined eagerness. When shall I be very much eager? Hankering to study the books left by the 6 Goswamis. Initiative of the soul. The soul is always desiring something, eager to get something. It might be sleep, it might be money, it might be food, it might be sex life, it might be anything in this material world. So how to develop that eagerness to ultimately, of course, this song is to return home, back to Godhead, back to Sri Vrindavan Dham. But in order to approach Vrindavan, we have to become very eager to associate with the residents of Vrindavan. The residents of Vrindavan make their association available through their writings, particularly, other means also, but specifically through their writings, guidebooks to guide us on the path back home, back to Godhead. So we should be very eager. We may be very eager to read books related to our occupation or our material desires, or about the news of the world, or whatever it may be. Something materially, temporarily invigorating to our conditioned nature. We have to become eager to study the books left by the six Goswamis, which includes Srila Prabhupada's books. They are nothing but, you could say, synthesis of the Goswami's books, presented in a digestible way, just like a mother. Sometimes when the mother is feeding a young child, just past just the milking stage, maybe just starting to take semi-solid food, the mother actually chews the food, mixes it with her own saliva. She doesn't taste it. She has this unique ability, capacity, and then that soft, prepared food chewed in her mouth, she then gives to her child. It's very easy for the child to digest. So the pure devotees, they make the teachings of Krishna consciousness easy and digestible. Just like Srila Prabhupada has made the teachings of Rupa Raghunath very simple to apply in our lives, to understand and to apply. And by application of that knowledge, then by the mercy of the Goswamis, that knowledge will become realized. One has to learn of the conjugal loving affairs of Radha and Krishna through the teaching of these six Goswamis. They are particularly, you could say, the limbs of Lordchitanya Mahaprabhu, or Radha and Krishna in the spiritual world, who are giving everyone the access to the most confidential association or devotional service. So we have to learn this process through the Goswamis. Gauranga Bolite Habe Pulakar Shriram Hare Hare Bolite Na Yane Pabe Niram Gauranga Bolite Habe Pulakar Shriram Hare Hare Bolite Na Yane Bhavinira Rupa Vagunata Pade Rahomara Asha Pratana Kuroye Sada Narottama Dasa Raghunatha Pade Rahamana Asha Pratana Koroye Sada Narottama Dasa. Narottam Das always longs to remain at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Raghunath Das Goswami. Most of the associates, the branches of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's tree and their consequent, let's say, descendants, are in this mood. They are in the mood of conjugal ras, many of them manjaris, as in the case of Narottam Das, in the party of Rupa Goswami, in the spiritual realm, assisting the Sakis in their bringing unending pleasure to the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. So their eternal connection with Rupa Goswami and Raghunath Das, etc., is maybe not manifested in their pastimes or their service within this world. It's always there. Prabhupada said that the pure devotees of the Lord, internally they're always engaged in their eternal relationship with the Lord, and externally they appear to be acting within the realm of this world that we live in. But it's not one or the other, it's both in that case. So, Narottama Das is longing to always remain in that situation. We in this material world long to remain in our dream. People, even at the time of death, are hoping that they can survive to continue their miserable lives a little bit longer and accumulate more karma. And because of ignorance, people are not aware of this, and they don't even want to be aware of it. They're just like this. Even in our experience, we see that sometimes we don't want to wake up. We just want to carry on in our dream sleeping condition. Most unfortunate ignorance that we're in. Ignorance is destroyed with knowledge. The Goswamis have given us that knowledge to destroy the ignorance, which we're generally speaking influenced by. Gauranga Bolite Habe Pulaka Sharira Hare Hare Bolite. I could take these off. Yane Babina Gauranga Bolite Habe Pulaka Sharira Hare Hare Bolite One more time. Gauranga Bolite Habe Pulaka Sharira Hare Hare Bolite Yane Vabe. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Om Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Parivrajatacharya. Ashtota Sadashesi Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Shri Gauranitai ki, Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Sabhadra ki. Harinama Sankirtan ki, Brihat Madanga ki. Lord Jagannath Ratha Yatra ki jai. Shri Jamastami ki jai. Shri Vyasa Puja ki jai. All glorious to the assembled devotees, Gaur Premanandi. All glorious to Shri Guru, Shri Gauranga, Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Shri Mayapur Dham ki jai. Hare Krishna. Nam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namani. Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nivasesha Sharnivari Paschachati Shatarine. Jai Prabhupada. So again, we'd like to thank those who've just come in to join us today in sharing or trying to develop our relationship with Lordchitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates. We have innumerable relationships in this material world with the world around us in different relationships. We may have conjugal relationship with our partners of some kind or another. It may become too indirect. As you know, in Ratha, there are 5 direct and 7 indirect relationships, or primary and supportative relationships. And when the secondary ones become too prominent, we have a problem. And this is what happens in the material world. If you read Nectar Devotion, you can understand the psychology of compatibility and incompatibility of relationships. And when it's like a meal, when the spices are too much, the meal becomes unpalatable. You can't eat it. There's a need for spices, there's a need for salt, pepper, and so on. But too much makes it unedible, unpalatable, not nice, and we don't want it. So similarly in relationships, when the secondary aspects become too predominating and overwhelm the primary ones, then the relationship breaks down, and we usually separate or whatever, argue, etc. So to find compatibility in our relationships, the Sankirtan movement is all about compatibility. Its general aspect, chanting the Maha Mantra, is for everyone, but it has to also be accompanied with a few other features in most cases. Therefore, we have various services, various associations, etc., to nourish or to develop our Krishna consciousness in a way which is compatible and palatable, almost the same. So today we're going to hear about one of those most important aspects of compatibility to bring us all to our eternal nature, our normal nature, in a very compatible way, in a very harmonious way, in a very pure and satisfying way. So in this material world, we have these relationships apparently attempt to at least compatible, maybe or not compatible. We attempt to have conjugal relationships. We attempt to have family relationships, parents, children, etc. We attempt to have friendships. We have no choice in this lifetime. We may or may not attempt. We like to be served. We may not like to serve. But service relationship is also there, very, very unavoidable. In this world, we're serving our senses, we're serving the world around us, serving so many other entities. And neutral relationship is there with the environment, you could say, or even with the majority of living entities. We have no specific identity with them except for they're existing there. And it may be, again, favorable or unfavorable. We may detest the fact that they're existing, or we may appreciate the fact that they're existing. But still, it's a kind of a neutral relationship. In this world, there's duality because we're in an incompatible situation. So there's a duality in our relationships. In the spiritual world, there's no duality as such, as singularity, because everything is seen in relationship with Krishna. The environment in this world is perverted, therefore we get a perverse interaction with the environment, which is sometimes seen favorably and unfavorably. In the spiritual world, the living entity is positioned correctly according to its nature, and there is no incompatibility with the environment or with those around us. And if there appear to be, it just enhances the relationship with Krishna. So we're going to be reading from Chaitanya Charitamrita. I could share the screen if that's okay with everyone. We'll try. I don't know. I think we can. Let's hope so. I'm going to try. This is it here, isn't it? So I'm going to go on to try to share the screen. I hope you can see it. Can you all see it? how to say it. How would I know?
Yes, we can see.
Okay, thank you, Sika. So we're going to start in the 11th chapter of the Madhya Lila. This is the Veda Kirtan pastimes. Prior to the Ratha Yatra, there were various preliminary pastimes leading up to Ratha Yatra. And amongst these pastimes, King Prataparudra, who was the king of Orissa, was quite prominent. Just give me 1 second. You said that Rajesh should leave at 11, is that right? Will we be able to put some books in his car?
Yeah, I'll see where he is because I've not seen it.
So this is a beautiful section of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhaktivinoda Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktivinoda. So this is one of the essential ingredients or effects of Ratha Yatra, is that it is a special word I can't think, a special show of mercy of Lord Jagannath and Lord Chaitanya, which everyone can knowingly or unknowingly receive. A special event where mercy simply flows one way to whoever happens to be in the vicinity, gets a shower of mercy. You have no choice in the matter. So we'll start to read. When King Prataparudra returned to Jagannath Puri, he called for Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. When the Bhattacharya went to see the king offered him respects and made the following inquiries. We'll go back a little bit so you get a little bit of the history. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas and left Mayapur, on the request of his mother, he made his base Jagannath Puri. Well, he went to Jagannath Puri, and specifically at that time, he went there to deliver Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who at that time was more of a logician, a philosopher, more inclined towards the monistic philosophy, hidden Vaishnava. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went there particularly to awaken Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya to his constitutional nature, which he did. But as soon as that happened, Lord Chaitanya left Puri and went on his tour of South India, which lasted several years. In the meantime, King Prataparudra came to hear about the fact that there was a great personality who had arrived in Jagannath Puri, which was under his domain as far as kingdoms go. And the king inquired as to who this was, and he got different reports about this great person, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So then the king went to one of his priests, the main priest of the Jagannath temple was Sarvabhauma. He was also like a priest to the king. So he inquired from Sarvabhauma, I've heard that there is a great devotee, a great personality who has arrived in Puri. Can you please be kind to me and please give me the opportunity to get his association? Sarvabhauma replied to the king, my dear king, much as I would like to attempt to fulfill your promise, but I'm very sorry to say that Lord, this great, yes, you're right, this great personality has been in Puri, but unfortunately he has left already. And besides that, he is a sannyasi, and he made it clear that he would not associate with worldly minded persons. So I don't think this will be very easy anyway, even if he were here. The king became very distraught and very affected. He said, oh, Sarvabhauma, he fell at his feet. He said, why you let him leave? Why didn't you keep him here? Sarvabhauma replied that Lord Chaitanya is none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's completely independent. No one can control him in this way. He's free to act. The king accepted what Sarvabhauma said, but he was very, very distressed. But Sarvabhauma said, don't worry, he promised to come back. When he comes back, I will make an attempt on your behalf, even though it may be very difficult. So the years went by and the king became more and more anticipant and more. You can imagine what it's like waiting for the person whom you feel in your heart of hearts is your life and soul to return back to wherever, in this case, Jagannath Puri. So the king was very anxious for the Lord's return. So then when the Lord finally did return to Jagannath Puri, and news came to King Prataparudra. In the meantime, Lordchitanya had been traveling. Of course, he'd gone to many places in South India. One of those places was Kovur, which is near Rajamahendri, in Andhra Pradesh, which I don't know if it's still Andhra Pradesh or not. They've changed the names there. But anyway, it used to be. And there, Lordchitanya met Ramananda Roy. Ramananda Roy was one of the administrators in the kingdom of King Prataparudra. And he was responsible for administering that particular area of his kingdom. So he's in a very important position in terms of material position. Lordchitanya met Ramananda Roy, who was his eternal associate. Ramananda Roy is considered to be none other than Vishakadevi, one of the Lord's most confidential associates. So on their discussion, one of the things that happened was Lordchitanya asked Ramananda to please join him, give up his position, and join him in Puri when the Lord returned to Puri. So Ramananda Roy did that. Well, first of all, he approached King Prataparudra and explained what had happened, that he'd met Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who had asked him to give up his post and come to Puri to serve Lord Chaitanya. When the king heard this, he was one of his chief assistants. You can imagine the king was affected, but he was affected in the most amazing way. He said, "This is wonderful news. How wonderful this is. Please immediately feel free to resign your post. And not only that, but whatever remuneration I give you in terms of your responsibility as an administrator in my kingdom, I will continue to give you, and even more if you need it, in your service to Lord Chaitanya. Whatever you need, you just ask me, and I will supply it if it's within my means." Ramananda Roy was very happy to see the devotion of the king, Prataparudra. So when Lord Chaitanya returned and, of course, met up again with Ramananda Roy and his brothers in Puri, Ramananda Roy himself mentioned the great devotion of King Prataparudra. So King Prataparudra at that moment was not in Puri. His kingdom was, his capital was Cuttack. So he was in Cuttack at that time. And then when he returned to Jagannath Puri, he called for Sarvabhauma, and the Bhattacharya came to see the king. So we'll carry on with the reading of this pastime. The king asked, he's asking Sarvabhauma, "Have you submitted my petition to the Lord?" Sarvabhauma replied, "Yes, with much endeavor, I've tried my best." It doesn't go down there. Yet, despite my great endeavor, the Lord would not agree to see a king. Indeed, he said that if he were asked again, he would quit Jagannath Puri and go elsewhere. This was like a bomb on his head, you could say, for the king. Terrible news. Hearing this, the king became very unhappy and, greatly lamenting, began to speak as follows. "Alas, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu incarnated to deliver all kinds of sinners, with the exception of a king named Maharaj Prataparudra." We know Lord Chaitanya is Patit Pavana. He's the deliverer of the most fallen. Specifically, he's come to deliver the fallen living entities in this age. But what about King Prataparudra? He's thinking, other than me, he's come to deliver everyone else. How unfortunate am I? King is thinking. And Prabhupada writes, this is going to be a little bit difficult. I don't know how to overcome this, actually. I get up the page one, but then I can't get the whole thing. Here we go. Purport. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission is thus described by Narottama Das Thakur. Patita pavana hetu tavavata mosama patita prabhava na paiveya. If Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu descended to reclaim sinners, then one who is the most sinful and lowborn is the first candidate for the Lord's consideration. That's pretty reassuring. Maharaj Prataparuta considered himself a most fallen soul because he had to deal with material things constantly and enjoy material profits. And most people will think that's the most elevated position in the world. A king. We don't have many kings nowadays as such, but people are thinking themselves kings or the controllers. And the most hankered after position to be the king, full with so many people under one's control, practically worshipping you, and all kinds of material facilities at one's fingertips. Oh, people would dream of such an opportunity. The king is thinking this is the most condemned, miserable, fallen condition you could achieve, practically speaking. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's business was the deliverance of the most fallen. How then could he reject the king? The more fallen a person is, the more he has the right to be delivered by the Lord. That doesn't mean we should try to become more fallen. So, provided, of course, he surrenders unto the Lord. Yes, we have to surrender. But the devotees are even more merciful, even though we may not be surrendered. The surrendered devotees still, nonetheless, they are pushing, or just like today on the Ratha Yatra, the devotees will be chanting in public and distributing books, maybe prasadam, I don't know. It's a restricted Ratha Yatra this year. We can't do what we normally do exactly, but we can do many things. And as much as possible, we'll be trying to push Krishna consciousness on others. Even the Lord in Bhagavad Gita says, don't disturb them. The Lord doesn't want his devotees to be disturbed particularly. But the devotees, knowing the Lord's real desire and wanting to please the Lord and deliver the conditioned souls, go out of their way to try to awaken other living entities. The more fallen a person is, the more to surrender. Maharaj, ultimately, surrender is required. In the beginning, it may not be much surrender. It may just be the surrender just to give a little donation, take a book, or look at the Ratha Yatra, or chant Krishna or something, take a piece of prasadam. Maharaj Prataparuta was a fully surrendered soul. Therefore, the Lord could not refuse him on the grounds that he was a worldly pound-shilling man, although he appeared to. This is sometimes the nature of love. One, it kind of builds up in separation. The intensity of one's hankering for one's objective goal increases. They say absence makes the heart grow fonder. So King Prataparuta's anxiety and hankering was growing more and more. Alas, the king continued, alas, as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made his advent, deciding that he would deliver all others with the exception of me, he bestows his merciful glance upon many lower class men who are usually not even to be seen, but not me. So this is from another writing, Chaitanya Chandradoya Nataka. Beautiful, poetic. I can't remember much about it. I've read parts of it. Maharaj Prataparuta continued, if Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is determined not to see me, then I am determined to give up my life if I do not see him. Think of what is the use of this life if we cannot have that opportunity to see Lord Chaitanya. And in the purport, where the purport begins here, a devotee with Maharaj Prataparuta's determination will certainly be victorious in advancing in Krishna consciousness. Sri Krishna confirms this in Bhagavad Gita. Tatatam kirtiyanto mam yatantas chadridavataha. Namasyantaschamam bhaktyam nitya yukta upasate. Always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me. These great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. Papa says, these are the symptoms of a Mahatma engaged in the Lord's service in full Krishna consciousness. Thus, Maharaj Prataparudra's determination is very much exalted, and it's called Dridhavrata. Because of this determination, he was finally able to receive Lord Chaitanya's direct mercy. So, that determination is the lolium, that hankering, as we heard in that song, Lala Samai Prarthana, is the price. Rupa Goswami says the price. Krishna consciousness is our determination, our hankering, our greed to obtain it. So King Prataparudra is certainly, and it's a very good one in this case, because it's something we can relate to ourselves a little bit more than some of the very deep expressions of lolium by some of the pure devotees of the Lord. But here it's a very practical one. He's a person of this world engaged in various administrative activities, and he, as a result, is not able to get the association of the Lord. Sometimes we're not able to go to the temple during this coronavirus situation. Many of us are not able to even associate very much, at least physically associate. So it's a very good example of how in such a situation, which is not necessarily our own doing, circumstantial particularly, where we're bereft of that opportunity, of how it can increase our determination for it. And this way, one becomes even more eligible to receive the mercy or the association of Lord Chaitanya. The king continues, if I do not receive Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy, my body and my kingdom are certainly useless. Now, just like Dhruva Maharaj, when he had hankering for a kingdom greater than his great-grandfather, Lord Brahma, but when he finally got the darshan of Lord Prishnagarbha, Lord Vishnu, he was completely free. He didn't have any interest in that kingdom anymore. He said, I approach you, my Lord, looking for broken pieces of glass. Now I have received the most valuable gem. So the opportunity to associate with the Lord or his devotees is the most valuable thing. And when Lord Chaitanya was discussing with Ramananda Roy and asking what is the most miserable or painful thing in this world, he said it's to be bereft of the association of devotees. So whatever reason the Lord is putting this situation, allowing this situation to be there, to increase or to show our determination, our sincerity, increase our hankering for the association of devotees, which means the opportunity to serve devotees. It's not just hanging around. The opportunity to serve them according to their position, according to our capacity, according to their position and circumstances which we're in a way which will please the Vaishnavas. In this way, Krishna will be very happy if we please the Vaishnavas. This is an excellent example, Prabhupada writes, an excellent example of Dridhavrata determination. If one does not receive the Supreme Personality of God's mercy, one's life is defeated. In Srimad Bhagavatam it is said, Parabhavastavara bodha jato yavan najigyasata atmatattvam. Unless one inquires into spiritual life, everything is useless. Without spiritual inquiry, our labor and the object of our labor are simply a waste of time. Next verse. Hearing King Prataparudra's determination, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya became thoughtful. Indeed, he was very much astonished to see the king's determination. Although he was a king and he never had the association of Mahaprabhu, and we would expect him to be rather materialistic, the Sarvabhauma could see that this king is not an ordinary king. This king is a very elevated soul, a great devotee of the Lord. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was astonished because such determination is not possible for a worldly man attached to material enjoyment. The king certainly had ample opportunity for material enjoyment, but he was thinking that his kingdom and everything else was useless if he could not see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And here we are with a few little bits and pieces of technology, like a mobile phone and a computer and a little tin can, which we call a car. Two mobiles, 3 mobiles, bits and pieces that we're so proud and attached to. And oh my goodness, I can't give those up. They're mine. And I've got my family and I've got my house, little box, a little, like a little grave, like a little grave, like a little, what do you call these things? Things you put people in a graveyard, but you put people in these boxes. Coffin, like a little coffin, which we think is a nice place. In there, we've got these gadgets which we can watch, nice furnitures, different things, whatever it is we've got. If we've got all of that stuff, and we've got our jobs, so many wonderful things. I'm so fortunate I've got these things, but they're all useless if they don't help us to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They're just an obstacle on our path of devotion. If they can be used in service, then they are of value. Otherwise, they're an impediment on the path of devotion. So the king had all unbelievably, I'm not unbelievable, but unendingly more than we can imagine, practically having opulences and material facilities for sense enjoyment. The king certainly had ample opportunity, but he was thinking his kingdom and everything else was useless if he could not see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Useless. What's the use of this body? What's the use of to speak of things that we think are ours? This illusion of me and mine, what's the use of it if we can't get Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy? This is certainly sufficient cause for astonishment. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that bhakti, devotional service, must be unconditional. Ahoitaki, Pratiyata, the 2nd chapter, we see this verse. Savaipung sang parodama yato bhaktir hokshite ahoitaki Pratiyata yatma suprasidati. Devotional service has to be uninterrupted, unmotivated, in order to satisfy both the Lord and oneself. It certainly is the highest form of all duties, the highest duty that one can perform is devotional service. But it has to be unmotivated. That means without material motivation. No material impediments can actually check the advancement of devotional service, be it executed by a common man or a king. In any case, devotional service rendered to the Lord is always complete despite the devotee's material position. We may not be completely engaged in devotional service, but devotional service is complete. It's not lacking anything. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna himself says, the one who engages in this devotional service is not bereft of the results of any other path whatsoever. In fact, he gets the results of every other path and far much more. But we have to be engaged. The more we're engaged, the more that will be experienced. And that engagement requires this determination. Devotional service is so exalted it can be executed by anyone in any position. It's not dependent upon material position, material qualifications. We can be uneducated by material standards. We can be even inhibited by material standards, by certain physical, say, impediments of various kinds, lame, even if we're dumb and deaf and blind. Various things, there's always a way we can engage in service if the heart desires, if we desire. We must simply be Ratha, determined. Materialistic people are very determined. I've given the example before, I give it again. Stephen Hawking, the famous scientist who passed away some years back, may have been an atheist, but aside from that, he taught lessons which can be used in Krishna's service. And one of the lessons is that he was diagnosed with MND, motor neuron disease, when he was about 20 or so. And the doctors told him that he wouldn't live very long. His life is basically over. But he was determined. He was so determined. He just said, I'm going to prove them wrong. Somehow or another, by Krishna's grace, if you want to call it that, He lived till, I believe, about 70 or so years old, so they say. And modern technology. He was a scientist, and so he was kind of had an important part to play as his life went on. Very important, most famous scientist in the world during his time. And he said, my secret was I concentrated on what I could do, not what I couldn't do. Most of our time we're meditating on what we really aren't going to do or can't do or didn't do or wish we could do, but we don't focus on what we actually can do, as much as we should anyway. Determined to do what we can do in order to become Krishna, or what we need to do to become Krishna conscious, this Dvita Ratha, and not many branched. Vyavasa Yatmika Budhire Ke Kurunandana Bahu Shaka Yanantescha Bodhyo Vyavasayanam. And Krishna explains to Arjuna that those who are on this path are resolute in purpose and their aim is one. O beloved child of the crews, the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many branched. We have to have that fixed goal. He had his goal, material it may have been, to prove the scientists or prove the doctors wrong and to fulfill his career. He was determined to do what he could in that direction. So we also have to have that pointed, that Vyavasayatmika, that determination that Prabhupada expressed in his own words to fulfill the order of his spiritual master. The secret of success in devotional service to have that goal and to aim towards that goal. Our ultimate goal is love of God. We may have goals within, or let's say along the path of leading to love of Godhead. We have to be determined in this case, whether it's to distribute Krishna consciousness or whatever it is, along that path. Firmly determined. The next verse. Excuse me, fiddling around here, but hearing the king's determination. Did we read this? No, I'm going up and down here. Yeah, here we are. But we can get back to here. First, finally, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, my dear king, do not worry. Because of your firm determination, I'm sure that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy will definitely be bestowed upon you. Due to the King Prataparudha's firm determination, the Bhattacharya predicted that the king would receive Sri Chaitanya's mercy without fail. As confirmed elsewhere in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Guru Krishna Prasadi Pai Bhakti Lata Bij, by the mercy of the spiritual master and Krishna, one gets the seed of devotional service. The Bhattacharya was the spiritual master of King Prataparudra, and he gave his blessings to the effect that the Lord would be merciful upon the king. The mercy of the spiritual master and Krishna combined to grant success to a devotee engaged in Krishna consciousness. So the both, well, we pray every morning, if you're a Mangalarti man or woman, Yasya Prasada Bhagavad Prasada, Yasya Prasada Nagati Katopi, Dayam Stuvam Stasya, Yasastri Sandhyam, Vande Guru Sri Charanada Vindam. By the mercy of Krishna, one gets the spiritual master. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one gets Krishna. Very important understanding. Brahmanda Brahmite Kom Bhagavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasadi Pai Bhakti Lata Bij, the verse quoted there. That the living entity has been wandering in this material universe for countless lifetimes. Through the Brahmanda, the material universe is up and down through various, and then eventually, by the mercy of Krishna, one gets the opportunity to meet a pure devotee of the Lord. And only by the combined mercy of the pure devotee of the Lord and the Lord, that the seed of devotional service is then awoken or planted within one's heart. And there's another verse in that regards, a few more here. The Bhattacharya we read, the mercy of the spiritual master and Krishna combined. This is confirmed in the Vedas. Yasya Devi Prabhakti Yata Deveta Tagoro Tashkate Yatita Karta Katita Hyarta Prakashante Mahatmanaha. Only unto those great devotees who have implicit faith in both the Lord, where do we go? And the spiritual master are all the imports of Vedic knowledge automatically revealed. Everything comes by that faith, that shraddha. Implicit faith means faith which is not wavering, is not mixed, is not some on and off. It's not, temporary. It's a firm faith in every situation in the Lord. We may not have that, and that is awoken by association with those who do. Well, this King Prataparuda had it from previous lifetime as well as this. He was a fixed, firm devotee of the Lord. So Bhattacharya is surprised to see this. Bhattacharya, Maharaj Prataparuda had firm faith in the Bhattacharya who declared Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Having firm faith in the Bhattacharya as his spiritual master, King Prataparuda immediately accepted Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the Supreme Lord. Thus he began worshipping Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his mind. This is the process of devotional service. According to Lord Krishna, the Bhagavad Gita, Manmana Bhavamad Bhakto Majaji Mam Namaskuru Mame Vaishasi Yukvaivam Atmanam Mat Parayanaha. This is the 9th chapter, Bhagavad Gita, the similar verse at the end of Gita also. Engage your mind always in thinking of me, become my devotee, offer obeisances to me and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. This process is very simple. One need only be firmly convinced by the spiritual master that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If one decides this, he can make further progress by thinking of Krishna, chanting of Krishna, and glorifying him. There is then no doubt that such a fully surrendered devotee will receive the blessings of Lord Krishna. Srila Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya explains this further. Sounds pretty simple, just to be convinced that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But we have to ask ourselves, how convinced are we? As soon as the Bhattacharya saw the king's firm determination, he declared, the Supreme Lord is approached only by pure love. Your love for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is very, very deep. Therefore, without a doubt, he will be merciful upon you. What a reassurance from pure devotee of the Lord. Such determination is the first qualification. As confirmed by Rupa Goswami, Utsahan Nischayat Darihat. One must first have firm determination, firm faith. It's Utsahan, enthusiasm, it's incredible determination. When one engages in devotional service, he must maintain this firm determination. Then Krishna will be pleased with his service. A spiritual master can show the path of devotional service. If the disciple follows the principles rigidly and undeviatingly, he will certainly receive the mercy of Krishna. This is confirmed by the Shastras. Sarvabhauma then suggested, there is one means by which you can directly see him. And we're getting, it's a very interesting statement. One means by which you can definitely get that mercy and see him. On the day of the car festival, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will dance before the deity in great ecstatic love. On that Ratha Yatra festival day, after dancing before the Lord, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will enter the Gundicha garden. At that time, you should go there alone, without your royal dress. The import of this is that we have to approach devotional service. If we really want to get the full mercy, we have to let go of all these false identities and the various attitudes that erupt as a result of these false identities. Let go of our material position, everything, our attachments, everything. It means, not in this case, the king, not in his royal dress. Let go of all of this. And alone, meaning to say that really it's we that have to make that step. Prabhupada says, you may take help, taking off when you're flying a plane or something. Once you're up, it's you or us. We have to do it. We have to fly our own kite or whatever. So he's recommended, Sarvabhauma has given him the clue here, how he can fulfill his determined desire to take part in the Ratha Yatra festival. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu enters the Gundicha garden, you should also go there and read the 5 chapters of Srimad Bhagavatam about Lord Krishna's dancing with the gopis. In this way, you can catch hold of the Lord's lotus feet. We don't have to imitate this. We understand the principle. receiving from the spiritual master the instructions how we can achieve the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Without his, the spiritual master is a representative of Nityananda. Without that, we can't get Lord Chaitanya's mercy. And without Lord Chaitanya's mercy, we can't get the mercy of Radha and Krishna. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will be in a mood of ecstatic love without external consciousness. At that time, as you recite those chapters from Srimad Bhagavatam, he will embrace you, knowing you to be a pure Vaishnava. A Vaishnava is always ready to help another Vaishnava progress toward realization of the absolute truth. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya could understand the king's position as a pure Vaishnava. The king was always thinking of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and the Bhattacharya wanted to help him approach the Lord. A Vaishnava is always compassionate, especially when he sees a prospective devotee very determined. Consequently, the Bhattacharya was ready to help the king. When we're ready, then Krishna will arrange that we get that opportunity to have that instruction to help us to go forward, but sometimes we're not ready. The Lord has already changed his mind due to Ramananda Roy's description of your pure love for him. And we could go on. I don't know how long this pastime goes on, but our time is running here. We're 10:15. Maybe we'll read a little bit more. Again, see here, the recommendation. One needs the recommendation of a pure devotee. Even in the material world, we need recommendations to get a job, to get a position, or whatever it may be. A recommendation is required. So here, the recommendation of none other than Ramananda Roy has already been submitted to Lord Chaitanya. At first, the purport, the Lord did not want to see the king, but due to the Bhattacharya and Ramananda Roy's earnest endeavors, the Lord's mind was changed. The Lord already declared that Krishna will be merciful upon the king due to the king's service to the devotees. This is the service to the devotees is the highest service, higher than service to the deity, higher than service to the direct service to the Lord. Serving the devotees, it's not in the same department as service to general mankind. Sometimes we hear this saying, what they say, service to man is service to God or something. Well, it depends how you interpret it, but it's rubbish if it's not in relationship to devotional service. And it doesn't mean anything. Of course, it may be a little pious, but it doesn't make one eligible for Krishna consciousness. It may make one a little bit more receptive if one takes the opportunity, but itself is not a qualification for God consciousness. Mundane philanthropy and nationalism and all these things are within the realm of ignorance. They're within the realm of separate mentality from Krishna. If seen in relationship with Krishna, they can be helpful, but they're not the objective goal in themselves. They're just stepping stones for some people. But devotional service, or this determination of Pataparuta Maharaj to serve the devotees and get the mercy of Krishna, this is real. This is the real valuable instruction, or the real valuable opportunity of human life. This is the process by which one can advance in Krishna consciousness. First, there must be the devotee's mercy, then Krishna's mercy will descend. Yasya prasada, bhagavat prasada, yasya prasada nagati kitopi. Our first duty, therefore, is to satisfy the spiritual master who can arrange for the Lord's mercy. A common man must first begin to serve the spiritual master or the devotee. Then, through the mercy of the devotee, the Lord will be satisfied. Unless one receives the dust of a devotee's lotus feet on one's head, there is no possibility of advancement. Again and again we see, and here's a beautiful verse, quoted. This is by Prahlad Maharaj in the 7th canto of Bhagavatam. There's a similar verse spoken in the 5th canto of the Bhagavatam by Jad Bharat. Naisham matistavada rukramangrim prishyatyanartha pagamoyadartha mahiyasam parvajobhishekang niskinchananam navinitaya. Unless one approaches a pure devotee, he cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Maharaj Pataparuta worshipped both Ramananda Roy and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Thus he touched the lotus feet of pure devotees and was able, therefore, to approach Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Next verse. Maharaj Pataparuta took the Bhattacharya's advice and firmly decided to follow his instructions. Thus he felt transcendental happiness. When the king asked the Bhattacharya when the bathing ceremony, this is going to go on and on. This pastime now is going to what we know as Snana Yatra, which takes place a couple of weeks usually before Ratha Yatra itself. And that particular pastime is an ecstatic pastime. Excuse me, the king was becoming more and more anxious. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, don't worry, very soon, the Lordchitanya, at that time when the Snana Yatra took place, Lordchitanya Mahaprabhu left Jagannath Puri and went to Alalanath, which is some distance from Puri. And he was in such feeling of separation, he couldn't tolerate staying in Puri. So he went to Lalanath. And the king, when he heard that the Lord had left Puri, he became in anxiety. He didn't know the reasons exactly, but he was completely overwhelmed with anxiety and stress that the Lord has left again. Will he come back? Or has he left again? He was thinking, oh, no, I've missed the chance. Ratha Yatra is coming and the Lord has left. But Sarvabhauma said, don't worry, he'll come back soon. Devotees from Bengal have heard that Lordchitanya is back in Puri and will be attending the Ratha Yatra, and there's hundreds and hundreds of them on the way right now to Jagannath Puri to meet the Lord and participate in Ratha Yatra. So I'm going to go back to the other screen, and we have to stop share. And here we are, because we don't have time to read any more. There were so many ecstatic verses and purports of how to get that mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu described here in this section of Chaitanya Charitamrita. But at that time, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, don't worry, when the devotees come, when they're coming to Puri, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will immediately return to Puri. So then don't worry, he'll be back in Puri again, and I assure you, you'll get his mercy. So when the devotees were arriving, King Prataparuddha he got message that the devotees from Bengal were on their way. He went with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Sarvabhauma's brother-in-law Gopinathacharya, and they went up onto the tallest building in the center of Puri to witness or to view the arrival of the devotees. And when they saw the devotees coming from a distance, King Prataparuddha could hear the kirtan and see the effulgence as the devotees approached the temple of Jagannath. And the king became overwhelmed. What is this? I have never seen such ecstatic dancing and chanting ever. What is this? He didn't know what he heard many kirtan parties, but nothing like this before. And then Gopinathacharya and Sarvabhauma explained that this is not ordinary Sankirtan. This is Prema Sankirtan. This is Sankirtan is coming directly from Goloka. This Harinam Sankirtan is coming from Goloka Vrindavan. Golokera Prema Dana Harinama Sankirtana. Coming from Golok Vrindavan. These are associates of the spiritual realm. And one by one, Gopinathacharya pointed out these persons, Vetacharya, Srivas Thakur, this one, that one. He pointed them all out to the king, who was completely, what word we can say, but his heart was just bursting in whatever it was, emotions, in seeing these various great Vaishnavas of the Lord entering Puri. And then Lord Chaitanya came from a distance. Of course, he could see Lord Chaitanya was greeting all of these great devotees as they arrived in Puri in various ways. And after that, as the festival approached, the king told his servants to make the best accommodation for all of the devotees that they could find in the whole of Puri. Wherever there was available should be made. Everything that they want, arrange it for these devotees. He gave the order to his servants. And as the day approached, he ordered the priests of the temple, Kashi Mishra and others, to make arrangements for Lord Chaitanya and all of his devotees to enter into the Puri temple when the Lord, let's say, gets ready to mount the cart. There's a festival, Pandu Vijay festival, which takes place. The Lord is offered various ingredients and various worship Please allow the Lord, no one's normally allowed in, but all of his associates to witness this pastime. So they did. And then the Lord comes out, Jagannath Baldev Subhadra comes out of the temple to mount his cart. And at that time, if you ever been to Puri for the festival, they have these cotton pillows called tulis, on which Lord Jagannath Baladev and Subhadra almost like bounced on as they approached their cart. They placed them underneath and kind of almost pick them up and bounce like this. They kind of bounce their way to the cart with many strong Godas. They were strong. They're Brahmins, but they're from lower castes. They were originally the Brahmins of the Shabaras during the time of Vishwavasu. That's another story. We don't have time to tell it. Anyway, they had this privilege to serve the Lord during Anavasara period when he's not seen by the public. He's considered to be in ill health during that time due to the Snanayatra. They paint the Lord during that time and so on. So during that time, these Godas, these very powerful personalities, look after the Lord and so on and so forth. And so they also bringing him out to the chariot, and thousands, hundreds of thousands of people are roaring, and Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, and so on. Lordchitanya is chanting to the top of his voice, Mani Ma, Mani Ma, Mani Ma. It means the most great personality, oh, greatest of persons. The Lord is chanting loudly as he's seeing Lord Jagannath come. And the king, traditionally the king of Orissa, is the one who sweeps the floor before Lord Jagannath. Now, this is done on the way to the cart, not so much during the parade, maybe also, but particularly on the way. So the king, Prataparudra, was considering himself the most fortunate of the fortunate to get this opportunity to sweep the floor in front of Jagannath as he's coming out of the temple. And he's sprinkling scented water all over the floor, sweeping the floor in front of Lord Jagannath. And Lordchitanya notices the king's menial service. Now, he doesn't just notice the service. What the Lord noticed is their attitude. We can sweep the floor and think of, look at me, how humble I am. As though I'm a king, just see, and hoping that people will praise him for it. The Lord sees our attitude. We can't trick the Lord. We may trick conditioned souls, or even liberated souls may go along with it because we're such an ass. But the Lord is not tricked like this. He can see our attitude. So he could see the attitude of the king, how humble the king is, that he's genuinely considering, although I'm so fallen, I am so fallen, so unqualified, by the mercy of the Lord, I've got this opportunity to render this little service to the Lord, even though I'm the most fallen. So that the Lord could see his attitude. Menial service is not just doing some menial service with pride. That is not a menial service. It may be part of it, beginning, may start like that. But if we want the mercy of Lordchitanya Mahaprabhu fully, then our attitude has to change. Stop putting ourselves in the center all the time. So the king was very fortunate. The Ratha Yatra began. Lordchitanya organized 4 kirtan parties, choosing the dancers, choosing the singers, choosing the instrument players. It wasn't just a free for all. Listen to me, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to lead. That is not Ratha Yatra. Ratha Yatra is to bring Krishna back to Vrindavan. It doesn't come back to Vrindavan by listening to some pop music which we want to display, or some croaking of a crow, or whatever it is that we're trying to sing. It comes back by the loving calls of his devotees. So then Ratha Yatra begins. Prabhupada said this is our most important festival of the year. With Janmashtami, yes, but this festival is so important. Usually it's kind of a social event, and we don't really enter into it. But it's meant to be for the devotees to enter into this mood of bringing Krishna back to Vrindavan, preparing our hearts, bringing Krishna back. He's already there, but we can't see him. Bringing him into our hearts. Oh, I think that's my phone, is it? Turn it off, maybe. So anyway, the fast Ratha Yatra begins. Lordchitanya is in ecstasy, absolute ecstasy. King Pratapu is watching from a distance. He can't come close, he's not allowed to, but he's watching from a distance. Lordchitanya manifested a very special pastime. Just like in the Ratha Yatra, the Lord expanded himself in innumerable forms to be with each and every one of his innumerable gopis. So similarly in the Ratha Yatra festival, all the various parties, there were more than 4 parties, 4 were organized by the Lord, 3 others were formed. Tremendous Sankirtan going on. And the Lord was in each and every party. Every party thought, oh, the Lord is in my party alone. But even each and every one dancing like anything in each party. And no one could see this except for the king. The king was seeing this. He thought he was having some kind of mental problem. He thought he was going crazy. And he said to Sarvabhauma, I don't know what's happening. Something happened, gone wrong. Maybe I've got some disease or something. But it looks to me like Lordchitanya is in every party. The king said, he is. Sarvabhauma said, he is. This is his special mercy on you that you're able to see this. He's giving you his mercy. So the Ratha Yatra went on. Sarvabhauma was not getting a little, also King Pratapu was getting a little bit closer. There were many circles around the Kirtan party to protect them. And somehow or another, at one point of time in this particular party, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced so high in the air that he crashed to the ground. And at that time, Govinda and Nityananda were somewhere. They were somewhere else. They weren't there. They would normally look after him when he crashed to the ground. But this time, King Pratapu burst through the crowd. He just took his chances and he picked the Lord up. When the Lord came to consciousness and saw that he'd been touched by a king, he was shocked. Ah, no, I've been touched by a worldly mind. Go away. He pushed him away practically. The king was, oh, his heart was pounding. He thought, oh, what has happened now? I'm finished. And Sarvabhauma said, no, you're not. Don't worry. The Lord would not allow this to happen unless he was happy with you. Don't worry. So the Ratha Yatra came to Balagandi, where the chariot stops, and there Lordchitanya entered into the Jagannath Vallabha Gardens and took his rest. And at that point, thousands and thousands of devotees brought thousands and thousands of preparations to offer to Lord Jagannath. The whole street was covered. Anyone can bring. You don't have to be a Brahmin. The Lord can eat the universe. He can certainly eat if he wants. Everyone brings their offerings. Even Muslims sometimes bring. It's just an event you can't miss. Absolutely amazing. It's just like today. Yesterday, I was talking to a devotee on the phone, Jason, who's in Jamaica. I was talking with him yesterday, and he said he's in Jamaica. And one of the things we said, I asked if there were Indians. He said there's tons of them here, but they're almost all Christians. I said it's not unexpected because they're so isolated in British colony and so on. There's some Hindus, mostly Christians. And he said, and I said, well, how are they? He said, well, they're all getting ready for Janmashtami. They're all Christians. They're all saying, what are you going to do for Janmashtami? They can't get out of their blood, even though they're supposed to be Christians. Ultimately, we're not Christians, Hindus, Buddhists, or Muslims. We're all eternal servants of Krishna. Janmashtami is the festival of greeting Krishna into her presence, you could say. So is Ratha Yatra. So like that, everyone comes forward, everyone, no matter what your false identity is, to take advantage of Jagannath's mercy, because seeing Jagannath, all these falsities can be cleared away. So there and then in that park in the Jagannath Vallabha Gardens, Sarvabhauma said, Lordchitanya went with his associates. He said to King Pratapu, now take off your royal dress. Literally, it wasn't just an attitude in this case, it was also an attitude, but it was a literal dress, and put on a simple mendicant dress. So he went in there with a mendicant's dress. The king entered the park with a mendicant's dress into the garden. And first he approached, the Lord was resting, lying on a plinth, and the devotees were around about him. He first approached the devotees, took the dust of their lotus feet, and begged their permission if he could kindly massage the Lord's lotus feet and legs. He was an expert masseur, amongst other things. So the devotees, they gave permission for this mendicant, this king, to perform this service. So he began to massage the Lord's lotus feet and legs. And as Sarvabhauma said, he sang the 5 chapters called Gopi Gita from Srimad Bhagavatam. And as soon as he started, Jayate Te Kam, first verse begins. Immediately Lordchitanya appeared to come to consciousness. He was ecstatic in his inner mood, hearing these verses of the gopis, specifically Radharani. And he said, carry on chanting, carry on chanting. So King Taparuta, very enthusiastic and with pure love, continued to chant those verses. And after some time, of course, he came to the famous verse, Tavakatam vitam tapta jivanam, Kavibirititam kalmashatam, Shravanamangalam Srimanatatam, Vivitigantiye Burida Janam. This verse spoken by the gopis, by Radharani and the gopis, very essential verse, and it, well, of course, at different levels has different depths of meaning, but on our platform, that those topics spoken by or about Krishna, conscious topics, are the greatest, the only relief for those suffering in this material world. They're the only panacea. There is no other medicine. Nothing else can cure us of the disease. Not even, I don't know the names of all the medicines that you're taking, vaccines for coronavirus, different Astra this, and I don't know, Co this, and I don't know, different things. They're Johnson this. But they're only, what do? They just temporarily keep this bag of karma going for a little longer. They do absolutely nothing to help the soul, zero, unless it helps us to do service, of course, a little longer, maybe. So this is the real medicine. This is the medicine to cure us of the bhava roga, the real disease of false identity in this world. So this message of Krishna consciousness is the only relief, whether you're the gopis who are in complete vipalamba bhav in a way we can't even describe or mention or even imagine, and just remembering Krishna is such intense remembrances. You can imagine their hearts are like exploding practically. And those who spread these messages throughout the world are the greatest welfare workers. In fact, they're the only welfare workers, really, in the real sense of the term. Everyone else is just, giving a cigarette to a man who's suffering from lung cancer, basically speaking. Just prolonging their karmic sojourn. It goes on, it has to go on, you could say, within the material framework, but it does nothing to bring the illusion to an end. This is the only panacea, the only medicine to cure conditioned soul. Other things may be facilitating the opportunity, but they're not in of themselves giving it. So this verse, when Lordchitanya heard this verse, he couldn't control his emotions any longer. And he just jumped from his position of lying. And he grabbed this mendicant, who was actually none other than the king. He grabbed him in his arms, embracing him firmly in his arms, dancing and dancing and dancing with the king in his arms, chanting and chanting this verse from the Bhagavatam. On and on they went. This way, the king received the full mercy of Lordchitanya. You could say this is the message of Ratha Yatra, the message of mercy, how to get the mercy of the Lord. The Ratha Yatra festival is a complete festival, complete. Everything is there. Nothing is lacking. The only thing is lacking is our absorption in this, you could say, complete manifestation of spiritual life on every level, even to the deepest level. The Lord Chaitanya is absorbed in loving relationships with Shamsundar, Jagannath, and how his devotees are none other than eternal associates, of course, how they're relishing the Leela, the Rasa of heart exchanges, the dancing, the singing, everything was absolutely in accordance with the mood of Lord Chaitanya, not their own mood. Ratha Yatra means harmonizing the soul with the heart of Lord Chaitanya, harmonizing our heart with Lord Chaitanya's heart, letting go of our dreams, our mundane aspirations, our falsities, our attachments, our false egos, and on, letting go and just absorbing ourselves in the mood of Ratha Yatra. That's why this festival is so important. It is the most merciful. Bob said anyone who sees Lord Jagannath on this Rath car will be delivered. We have to see the Lord. We have to take that opportunity. Open our eyes, which are covered with the darkness of ignorance. Shri Jagannath Ratha Yatra ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Premanandi. I hope you can meditate a little bit on this festival. It's a great, you could say, build up to Janmashtami. In reality, it is bringing Krishna back, as Vasudeva, in one sense, brought Krishna Vrindavan. Krishna never leaves Vrindavan, but he gives us this opportunity to engage in this way as if we were bringing Krishna back to Vrindavan, to please Radharani, please the gopis, and please all the residents of Vrindavan. So it gives us this opportunity. Although he never leaves, it appears that he does. And it gives us this opportunity to take part in this service to Radharani. Jai Shri Jagannath Ratha Yatra ki jai. So maybe there's some questions or comments on this subject matter. Let's see. We have to make our way to the parade fairly shortly. We have to do a few things before we go. So we haven't got too much time. We've gone late already. It's already very late. Okay, we're looking forward to seeing you also, Sham Sundari. Yes, yeah, the holy name is not of this world, always complete and pure, never impure. It's just our relationship which may not be so pure and clean with the holy name. For the process, if we follow the process of serving the name under the direction of a pure devotee who is a pure servant of the name, if we want to use that word, then we can gradually purify our consciousness. So the holy name will reveal. As they surrender unto me, I reveal myself accordingly. The name will reveal himself. And similarly, in the case of devotional service, it's a matter of purifying our hearts. So we receive devotional, so that's why devotional service is only received from a pure devotee. It is not a concoction of this world or an imitation. It is a gift coming down from Krishna. Bhakti Devi comes through the mercy of the pure devotee of the Lord. We cannot receive the real name only through a pure devotee of the Lord. Others may be chanting a reflection or whatever it may be. And you could say maybe eventually it will give them a chance to associate with a pure devotee, but we have to take that opportunity and not think we can do it on our own. It doesn't work like that. We can't concoct. Devotional service is not a concoction. It is the internal energy of the Supreme Lord. And it is simply, this whole purpose is bringing pleasure to the Lord. It's not just to bring pleasure to us. We have many so-called kirtaniyas in the world today who are singing away and their voices are nice and they can sing with some mundane emotions of various kinds or personal motivations. But that is not what it means to perform kirtan. Kirtan is the property of the pure devotees of the Lord. It's not some mundane thing that anyone get a hold of and expect to get the same result. You get mundane results. That's what. Just a quick question. During the Bhajan class, you mentioned important eagerness for progressing on the path of bhakti in this material world. How should we best divert our eagerness from material pursuits to devotional service? Well, that's the process of dovetailing. Prabhupada uses it, dovetailing word, which is an unusual word, but it means to how to utilize whatever we've got due to our karma in devotional service. When you read Bhagavad Gita, 3rd chapter, and other chapters of Bhagavad Gita, you can get some clues there how to do that. And then generally speaking, in the society, Vedic society, it's automatic. In our society, it's also there. If a person is a good pot washer, he might be engaged in pot washing. If you're an engineer, might be engaged in some engineering work. And even if we're not, the whatever abilities we have, we should use them in Krishna's service. If you're getting some fruits from your work, utilize those in the service of Krishna. If you don't know how to do that, ask your mentor, ask the temple, ask some devotees around you what I should best do with my talents, with my wealth, with whatever it is, my intelligence, whatever my body, whatever we may think or have at our disposal. This is how devotional service starts. We offer the fruits of our work, then maybe the work itself, and then gradually we come to the platform of devotional service. Where's this from? Just another comment. What is this? I have missed eagerness for propagation. Yeah, well, that eagerness, we should be eager to engage our whatever, even if a person has material intelligence, so in relatively speaking, in the eyes of others, to utilize that. We should be determined not to become, let's say, proud of it, not to utilize it for our own material ends. You have to maintain, we have to maintain our lives, that's for sure. Whatever is required to sustain our lives is needed, but as much as possible, we try to utilize everything we can in devotional service. And again, we really need the association of devotees to do this. Otherwise, we will get the wrong impression. Sometimes we become disappointed. Sometimes we're proud. Sometimes we give up because we're not getting what we think we should get in the, I'm a very talented person, but people are not appreciating me. I've got a lot to offer, but they're not really, recognizing it, or even appreciating me for doing it. All kinds of other illusions can come on our path, which we have to be very careful about. Otherwise, we can also, because as we heard earlier, how the Lord is looking at our attitude, not just what we do. What we do is also important, but our attitude is, in the big picture, is more important. That's the main thing, our attitude. For whom are we doing it? We say, I'm doing it for Krishna, but are we really doing it for Krishna? Maybe, maybe not. That we have to, that Krishna knows, and the pure devotees of the Lord. But we may not even be ready to hear the answer for that. We're so stuck in our illusion that if you say, oh, Prabhu, it's nice what you're doing, but your attitude, what do you mean my attitude? Is your attitude is the problem? We immediately bark back. That means we're not yet ready to receive instruction practically. We have to have a few knocks on the head before we wake up. But anyway, at least we're on the path. But yes, so we need association. We have to humble ourselves, as King Prataparudra humbled himself in front of Sarvabhauma and Ramananda, and everybody else come to that, feeling himself the most unqualified, although he was the most qualified. What to speak of us who are unqualified and we think we're qualified. There's attitude. And we learn from those who are more qualified how to engage step by step, like a baby learning to walk, how to move forward in their devotional service. We may think, I should be doing a big service, but that might mean that we're a little proud, and therefore it may not be the right time to do a big service. And if we do, we'll find that we won't be happy doing it because people will not be happy around us because we're carrying pride. And nobody will just feel uncomfortable. And so will people around us, but they'll just ignore us or just something or another. I don't know if you get the point. But anyway, it's a big subject. Discuss it with sincere devotees, those who are desiring to advance in spiritual life. Hare Krishna. Last one or two things. At time when we hear some kirtan, that kirtan keeps playing in our mind over and over again without any effort. Is this Nama Bas, Nama Parad, or Shoot? You can't give a label to that one, but it's certainly good. That's all I can say. It's not Nama Parad, unless we're thinking, I hate this, something like that. Get out of my mind. I hope we're not thinking like that, but we shouldn't be. But it's certainly, if it's all the time, constantly, that's a pretty good sign. That's approaching. It may not be with love. It may not be with, with a conscious, say attachment. But we're very fortunate if we're surrounded by the holy name within, particularly in any situation. And that's why we have kirtan, lots of kirtan, so that helps that to happen. So that horrible pictures don't predominate in our mind. When we say horrible pictures, we don't mean nightmares. We mean much worse than nightmares are thoughts of material sense gratification. Nightmares are clearing us from our karma. When we pursue material thoughts for sense gratification, that's the most dangerous thing in our minds. So more and more kirtan, so the kirtan keeps popping up, even if it's not always there. So it might be Namabas. It depends on, again, this depends on our attitude towards the chanting in our minds. As it depends on our attitude externally, it depends internally also. What is our attitude towards what we see in our minds? We may like it, we may not like it. We may offend it, we may not offend. It depends on our attitude, which determines what level, you could say, of adhikar we are, what level of advancement we're on, the attitude. Next one. This will have to be the last one, I'm afraid. If devotees give us a service which we struggle and do not enjoy, despite of asking for the service which we like, it's okay to leave the service. I recently stopped doing 2 services, which I've been doing for 3 months. I've struggled, felt miserable as another person took over in the hard work I have put in. We won't get any loss for whatever service you've done. It's a question of gradually bringing us to the platform of surrender, bring us to the platform of letting go. And the best thing to do in these circumstances, when for whatever reason Krishna allows these things to happen, whether it's test, purification, whatever, it's best not just to leave the service like that. It's best to, again, I can't say where the situations are different in different places, but it's always best to reveal one's heart in confidence with somebody who's involved in what service one's doing, in a humble way, not in a challenging way, not in a negative way, not in a why you critical in any way, but in a humble way. I don't think I'm qualified for this, or something like that. Or, not in the sense of trying to get out of it in a kind of like escapist way, but in an honest, sincere. Be sincere. Be sincere. We're not here to suffer. We're not here to do things we really, get miserable doing. That maybe that's due to our, impure attitude, maybe, but we may not be ready for that. So be sincere at whatever level we're on, and reveal your heart. And even if you get a bonk on the head for doing so, try to see that, this isn't so bad after all. At least you revealed you did your best. And now your attitude will improve too. Hopefully, when you bonk me on the head, I'll never talk to them again. I'll never do service again. But that's another. You could go on and on in this. This is a whole, interaction going on here between you, Krishna. Devotees around you also have to learn their lessons. They may not be pure devotees either. And it's a whole interaction going on here to bring us ultimately to the attitude of selflessness, anyabilasita shunyam jnana karma janavitam. We do our best. And if you're sincere, your intention is sincere, Krishna will arrange the rest in time. Don't worry. Don't become disheartened. Do not foster negative thoughts about others. This will put back our advancement in Krishna consciousness until we let go of that one. Don't blame others in any situation. that will hold us back until we stop doing it. We'll live in a life of blame. We'll start blaming this one, that one, out, blaming ourselves. So many things. There's a position to blame yourself as well, but there's another situation of blaming yourself that you become absorbed in it. You become so self-conscious that you don't even think of Krishna. You're just absorbed in your own situation. We have to. It's a big subject. It's not something in 5 minutes. But believe me, Krishna's hand is working behind the scene to release us from all of these various mental, intellectual ideas of controlling the world around us, controlling our situation, maneuvering ourselves into a position where we get what we want, etc., etc. Krishna's hand is working. And we get a few knocks on the head sometimes. Again, it depends. We can go this way or that way. Thank you, Krishna. Or why is this happening to me? Okay, a little bit more time yet before we wake up. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. So yeah, I'm really sorry. But I think Handy from Chadan later on, I begins chanting a little bit of the day. Can he continue with left hand about that? Better you start to learn how to use the right hand. It's a stage of surrender, at least for chanting your japa. I mean, if you can't, you can't. Krishna knows what's going on in your heart. It depends on the reason. He knows you may not be quite ready yet. But ultimately, why not? We can surrender. Practice makes perfect. We're not familiar with chanting Hare Krishna for our whole life when we started. So I'm sure we can change from left to right. It's such a small thing. What's the problem? Okay, maybe it is a bit conditional. You suddenly forget again. It's okay, but why not make the effort? Why not make the effort to chant with the right hand? It's external, but if we can't do a few little externals, we stopped eating meat, we ate meat all our lives or whatever it is. Little things like this are not so difficult. And if we forget, sometimes c'est la vie, it's life. But, you go back again to... I forget. This happens in every area of our lives. We keep forgetting because of our lack of Krishna consciousness and our conditioning from the past. That was the problem. Don't worry if you're sincere and you just keep making a mistake or you still can't do it. Krishna understands. Your chanting is 0, not out of 100 because you chant it with your left hand. It's not like that. But it's our surrender. We have to be develop surrender to chanting. Surrender to the name. This is a little thing accompanying it. It's like chanting on beads, chanting in a bead bag, chanting at different times of the day. But most important is chanting attentively. And that's the main thing, to try to hear the name. We're not on the level of loving exchange, but at least we can try to hear the name attentively. Okay, I have to go. I'm sorry we haven't got time for... Yeah, it's 11 o'clock. We have to get ready to leave for the Ratha Yatra. Thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. I will be online again with Malaysia Yatra in a couple of days, 3 days, 2 or 3 days time, I think Tuesday. You can find out from Janananda Prabhu, whoever is doing it, what time it is, where it is, when it is, and so on and so forth. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Have a great Janmashtami, have a great Ratha Yatra, have a great Vyasa Puja festival, absorbing yourself, bringing pleasure to Radharani today, and Ratha Yatra, bringing pleasure to Krishna on his appearance day, and Srila Prabhupada, and all the Vaishnavas. Gaur Premanandi. We just put the screen on if we can find it. Where is it again? We've lost it. Where is it? How do we find that? Wherever in view, there you got it. Gallery Ki Jai. Hare
Krishna.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Hari Bol, Gurudev.
Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. Jai Jai Sri Radhe. Jai Jai Sri Radhe.
Hare Krishna.
Jai Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol. Hari Bol. आता हरी बोल कर गुरु चालेत महाराज ये लोक मारेल धरून लवकर बस
in UK, Maharaj.
Or
Jai Hari Bol.
Hari Bol kar Maharaj.
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna
Hari
Maharaj.
Bol Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.